Before you ever go see a house, there's a lot of things that you can know before you go check it out. And I wanted to show you my process for this. My name is Matt. I'm with Stalwart and Wise Real Estate Group. And today we're checking out a house for a customer that is interested in this location. So this is a relocation house. And from the outset, we know that this house is in the rough area that they want, and it has a little more information than you would normally get because some relocation companies give you a little more information from the beginning than later. So we have access to a home inspection here, which is going to help out. So regardless, what we want to do is look at it from a map view. I like to do this with all my houses to see, hey, what's going on in the area. We see that it's located near the reservoir, which is close to Kannapolis in North Carolina. And we can see in the general area, we've got a little bit of development going on. Plus, we also have some warehouses that are close to the neighborhood. So, we would have to check in on the zoning there. Looks like the land use here is for a mobile home lot, which they may be less interested in here with this neighborhood being a higher price point. That's up to them, but we have other warehousing, and then a little further off the way we've got some up here as well. So it is part of a residential neighborhood tucked right in the back off of a cul-de-sac. So the next thing we're going to look at is it's built in 1997. So now that it's 2025, there's a lot of things that are going to have had been updated because your roof shouldn't last more than 30 years or so, even if it could be a 50-year roof, but the point is that you should have some turnover in systems and functions on the house. So we can see here that it's got a lot of great stuff going on. This is the fun part of the house, gorgeous custom house. It's the best home in the whole wide world. But we also are seeing here that the septic permit has been requested through Cabarrus County. So that's a little flag to say, hey, if this is a 4-bedroom house, it should have a 4-bedroom septic system. And we have some disclosures that are going to be associated with it, which are going to be helpful. So we want to know right now what the age of the roof is. And for this, we're going to look at all these disclosures here. First, we have the septic permit here. First one we want to check out is the disclosures, which, let's see here. We've got a lot of good stuff. Here's the disclosures. So this tells us in the disclosures that the owner bought this property back in February of 2024. That helps us very little. We know that they should have been the occupant of this house for at least about the last year. It was built in 1997, and the roof was done in 2017. So at first glance, the roof looks like it was done, that it should be in good shape. Secondly, we're looking at, it looks like it has 2 heat pumps that were replaced in maybe 2009 and 2018. So we want to check that out. Your heat pump or any heating and cooling system is typically rated between 15 to 25 years. So this one from 2009, it's a little bit older, and we just want to check on that. So here's some additional comments. It looks like we had a tankless water heater added in 23. There is some standing water, so that's a little red flag that would go up. There's some cracked mortar. We don't know why, but I'm not an inspector. It could be associated with some of the standing water. And then it looks like there's some failed seals in the windows. There also looks like there's a couple of issues with the electrical, and then there's gaps in the pool deck, crack in the skimmer. So there's issues with the pool equipment as well. So if we scroll up, it looks like they gave us what the initial part of a radon report. It doesn't show the results. And here's a wood destroying insect form on this house, which shows us that in the past, there were termites and there's visible evidence of previously treated infestation. Oh, and the way they know that is, you have little drilled holes that probably go along the crawl space, and they are typically refilled with mortar after the poison or whatever is poured in it. So it showed visible evidence of the treatment. It doesn't look like there's any active stuff going on. Potentially, if there's evidence, yeah, it doesn't say anything about it being active, so that's good. So now what we want to do is we want to look closer at the inspection report. They have some fun stuff here. So, we've got a new roof in 17, 2 tankless water heaters. It says here that the upper and the lower were replaced in 2006 and 16. Oh, that correlates with the dates. Okay. Washer and dryer, new pool equipment, even though it does have some issues. Crawl space with new dehumidifier. So this is important because we talked about standing water. If there's a crawl space, then we want to check that out. It looks like we got a primary bath that has a steam shower. So we want to probably look into that a little bit as well too. Since it is a relocation company, they went ahead and did an inspection up front. And instead of using this one, we're going to use this form. I was able to highlight a couple things that were bigger issues. So these are not a big deal, but we can see that the company is going ahead and making the decision that they're waiving this issue. So cracked mortar, some things like that. So it looks like, again, consistent with the foundation, there are multiple areas around the house that are not sloped away from it appropriately, which could be adding to the issue. Looks like we've got some clogged gutters, issues with downspouts being too close, and just lots of little stuff here. If I look down at this one, item 20, it talks about efflorescence, which is basically when you have moisture going through the crawl space wall or basement wall anywhere. It's typically like these white streaks. It doesn't look wet necessarily, but it'll look like you're growing calcium on the side of your walls basically, or a white mineral. And they're getting efflorescence in here, which shows that water in theory should be penetrating. Again, I'm not an inspector. This is just what I've seen at other houses, but that indicates that there is some kind of a problem down there. They did say that they have a dehumidifier down in the crawl space, which is helpful, but still something we want to check out a little bit more. It also looks like we've got some wires, white wires being used as hot conductors. And multiple other little electrical issues going on through here. So we would want to check in and maybe find out some price points of that. When you get into your crawl space, you can add the dollars pretty quickly when you're playing around underneath the house. It's a lot of hard digging if there is issues. So right now, there's also damage to the refrigerant line on the HVAC system. That's something you want to check out further. And then so in the primary bedroom, they have issues with the tiles. That could be an issue because there is a steam shower in there. So we would want to check that out from the outset. And then even though the roof is only about 10 years old, there is some issues with it, with the flashing. It was a visual inspection with binoculars, so you would definitely want to check that out even more. And then we have lots of repairs in the crawl space that could add up to a pretty hefty bill after we evaluate them further to see what's going on. There's also suspected fungal growth in the attic framing. And this is interesting because it's in the attic framing and in the crawl space. So the dehumidifier might have been installed after they had the issue and it was never cleaned up, or it might not be doing the job. So we'd have to check into that. And then even though the heat pumps were replaced recently, it does look like there's some staining and issues associated with that. So if I'm looking at a house just from a backwards perspective, we've got a lot of the information that we would find out only after due diligence. But if I'm looking at a house of, 992 and my budget, let's say, is a million, for example, and then I'm already adding on potentially two HVAC systems, possibly fixing a roof and some issues with the crawl space, that could be another $25,000. And that would be up to the client to check out whether they would want to do, you know, or customer up front, whether they would want to take that on or not. That also might say, hey, we have to try to negotiate from the outset at a harder price point. But something that I've seen here is that if it's 0 days on the market, typically they want to see what kind of action that they can get on the property. Right now, the market's slightly slower, which is not necessarily a big thing, but does say that this house and this price range could sit on the market for easily 60 to 90 days before anybody goes under contract with it. So, unless somebody just comes along and buys it, but that is a risk that is inherent in the process. So, hopefully, this first look will be valuable and helpful. There is some other information on the house that they've included, which is really nice. You don't get this on every house, but we've got a nice floor plan. We've even got some kind of easement that needs further looking into. And we do have a septic. This was a permit, so we don't know what they actually did, like what the results were. Forgive me, it was the permit. Yeah. So this was for 1,000 gallons. I was under the impression that it's only for 3 bedrooms, 1,000 gallons. I thought you needed 4. Maybe that's an incorrect assumption. Oh, yeah. So right here on this permit, they're looking at 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. So there's a discrepancy there. If they only have a 3-bedroom house, they've listed this as a 4-bedroom house. In North Carolina, if it has a 3-bedroom septic and 10 bedrooms, you still have to sell it as a 3-bedroom house. I'm not saying this agent did anything wrong. I'm just saying that the permit says 3 bedrooms, the listing says 4, and maybe they have more current information on it, but that's something that we would need to dig on too. So this is for Panthers Den Court. I know we're kind of getting up there in the minutes, but this is just a preliminary look at the house. Hope you have a great day.